Greeting, fellow travelers. It is I, the Bowtie Guy, and I'm so excited to be back here, but I'm also just really excited to share about my awesome road trip with you, all of you. 79 days later, over 17,000 miles later, and just about $2,000 later, I am here back in Maryland. Even though I'd like to be anywhere else but here, I'm so ready to go again. But here, I am now here to share about my trip with all of you. I've learned so much, I've gained so many experiences, I could go on and on forever talking about my trip. But I have had so many questions, so many people ask me things, so I decided I was going to make this video to answer some of these FAQs. So here we go. So the first question I get is, what's with the bow tie? Well, I used to wear ties a lot. I'm a very outgoing, energetic sort of person, so the tie would always get in the way, that kind of thing. I found bow ties. I found on eBay, which I could get them on eBay for like pennies. The most I ever paid, I think, was $1. But I got a whole collection of bow ties, and when I was setting off for my trip, people were like telling me it'd be so much cooler to follow BowtieGuy than Luke Makris. And so that's when the BowtieGuy was born. So a lot of people like to ask me, how did you decide where to go? Well, I'll tell you, I'm normally a very structured individual. I like to have it planned out, sorted out, all that stuff. I decided that for this trip, I was going to try to go with the flow. I was going to try to step outside of my comfort zone, and so that's what I did. Before leaving, I came up with, some cities I wanted to go to, some things to do there, Google searched what to do in Seattle, what to do in Chicago. But as I went along the way, people recommended things, and I would write them down, and I would check it out, and I would add it to my list, and I just added to that giant Google map that I have, which if you haven't seen it yet, I will link below. But there's a giant Google map that shows you everywhere I went. And so I just went with that. I kind of went with the flow. I went to a city. I went to the visitor center. I asked them what there is to do, what's unique, what's culturally relevant, that kind of thing. And when I felt accomplished, when I felt like I had done what I wanted to do in that city or in that location, I would move on. And that's just how I did it the whole trip. So a lot of people also like to ask me, what made you do this? You don't just wake up one morning and decide you're going to go on a nationwide road trip. So what has happened, last April, I was trying to find an internship. I was having a hard time, and I was like, I don't want to have a lame summer. I want to do something. So I was like, oh, I'll do a small road trip. I'll go for a week somewhere or something like that. And as I struggled to find an internship, I just thought more and more about this road trip. And I've always wanted to travel the world. I've always wanted to gain new cultural experiences, see the world from other perspectives. And I was like, America is just as diverse as the rest of the world. So why not just travel the United States and go full out? And that's when I stopped looking for an internship and I just started planning out my trip. So over the period of a month, I just kept adding cities and things to do in the cities and stuff like that. And that wasn't even the extent of it because people kept telling me more things to do on the trip. So that's really how it happened. I just it just snowballed. It was a giant snowball effect. This next question I really love. People keep asking me, did you ever hate driving? The funny fact is, I used to hate driving. I would avoid it at all costs before I went on this trip. But after my first drive to New York City, I was like, that's not that bad. And then driving just grew on me and I didn't mind it. I listened to podcasts, listened to the news, things like that, so I didn't ever mind it. Now there were times when I found myself stuck in the middle of nowhere and I didn't have access to that and I forgot to download, which always remember to download that stuff. At that point, I was kind of frustrated. I was like, oh my gosh, just thinking in my head going kind of crazy. But there were a few times when there's some horrible roads that you don't want to drive on because they're left, right, windy, up and down, and they're just not pleasant to drive. But other than that, I actually enjoyed driving, and I was really surprised. This next question, the answer really surprised me actually at first. So everybody asked, how did you spend $0 on lodging? Well, it's because I slept in my car every single night. Now, there were a couple nights where I stayed with friends and people and connections that I knew along the way. But otherwise, I spent a night in my car every night. I could have gone to a hotel, spent $70 on a hotel, motel, whatever. But it's just not worth it because I actually enjoyed sleeping in my car. So, I don't move a lot when I sleep. I just, go to bed, fall right asleep, that kind of thing. So, I was right in my car, fall right asleep. At the end of the day, I'm pooped. I fall right asleep and wake up naturally the next morning. I felt refreshed. It was amazing. So I loved it. I didn't mind sleeping in my car. So a lot of people ask me about hygiene. Well, it is kind of tough to keep your hygiene up, but it's really easy. Brush your teeth. You just go into a random restroom and brush your teeth. I mean, Walmart, I was always there every morning and every night, so I usually use Walmart. When it comes to taking showers and stuff, when I stayed with people, I took showers for sure. And then there's a lot of truck stops that have showers, and also you try out a couple gyms, ask to be a member for a day, and you get to try out some gyms. and you get showers. And then of course everybody likes to know about food. Well, a lot of the food I just went with, like fast food, whatever was cheapest kind of thing. But also if there was something noteworthy, something new, like a restaurant I'd never seen before, I always stopped in. The other thing is I went to a lot of farmers market, little vendors, things like that, because they always liked to hear my story and would always give me stuff. So that's how I got a lot of meals. Alright, the following question I hate. Everybody asks, what's your favorite place? There is no favorite place. You can't have a favorite. Like, there's just so much awesomeness out there. It depends on like what you're in the mood for. Like, I could be one day really want to be in the city, another day I could want to be out in the open all by myself. It's just so different. So, considering that, if you add everything together and everything good, everything bad from a single state, my favorite state is Oregon. Now there's tons of reason why, and I can explain it some other time. Feel free to ask me, but Oregon is my favorite state. So a lot of people also ask me about like internet, charging your phone, charging your computer, that kind of thing, because to take all those photos I had to bring my computer to store it all. And so really, I mean, I charge my phone in the car when I'm in the car all the time. I had an external battery pack as well. My laptop, when I was at Starbucks or at McDonald's, I would charge it and use the internet, that kind of thing. So it's really not that hard. It's actually really, really plausible. So I really don't like this next question. Everybody asks me, did you regret anything? And no, because everything happens for a purpose. I learned that so much. Well, I knew that before, but it was reassured so much on this trip. I had no rain for like a month and a half. I missed all the wildfires. I missed all the shootings. I missed everything. Like, I had the most impeccable timing ever. I just cannot believe it. And so if I had changed anything, it would have changed the whole course of the trip. Now I will say I went to Vermont instead of going to Maine, and I think that I should have gone to Maine, but that's the only thing. But I accomplished so much on this trip that it doesn't matter. There's always a next time, and I just feel so good about what I've accomplished. And lastly, people like to always ask me, like, what did I learn? And like, I think the biggest thing I learned is, like, I learned so much stuff about myself, about others, about people, about like culture, about different parts of the United States, all that stuff. But mainly I learned about myself that I just feel so much more empowered now. Like, I know that I can do anything. Like, if I want to do it, I can make it happen. I went 79 days alone on this trip, figuring everything out for myself. I'm 21 years old. I can do anything now that I've done this, is what I feel like. And so that's my biggest takeaway from this trip. Now that's all for the frequently asked questions, but I do have a couple things I want to say. I want to say a special thank you to a couple key individuals as well as businesses, because if it weren't for them, this trip would have never been possible. There were two things that were really stopping me from going on this trip. One is finding a way to move around the country, and number two, being okay with being alone. So that number two, because I realized I could be virtually not alone, I could be on social media with all of you guys, I became okay with being alone. Number one, though, my mom let me use her car. If it weren't for that, this trip would not have been possible. I looked at every other mode of transportation, and just none of them would really work out. They're either too expensive, too slow, I don't have as much like opportunity to do what I want to do, that kind of thing. So thank you to my mom, and thank you to my dad as well, for supporting me along the way and letting me drive the car. I also want to thank all of you who followed me. There were a couple key people who really followed me along the way. Maria LeBeau, Ray Little, some people on Snapchat. I saw them consistently every single day. Of course, my parents, I saw them, but like, they were just people that I saw every single day and just made me feel like I was loved. Also, I just want to thank these couple businesses. If it weren't for Starbucks, McDonald's, Domino's, and Walmart, regardless of what you think about their business ethics and all that stuff, just think about those. Those four are really what helped me make this trip possible. Walmart is where I slept, it's where I brushed my teeth. McDonald's is where I got internet. Starbucks is where I got so much water. I would have been dehydrated like crazy if it weren't for Starbucks. And then Domino's, they just gave me pizza like so many nights. Like, those four businesses made this trip possible as well. So I just want to thank them, thank all of you who followed me on social media, and I just cannot wait to start another road trip, guys. I am so excited. I hope you all enjoyed. Again, if you guys have any questions and you want to reach out to me for any more information, definitely reach out. I am planning on starting a business. If you're watching this movie after I have started the business, it's probably going to be something along the BowtieGuy travel planning or something like that. But I am excited to share my wisdom with all of you and to help more people do awesome trips like I am. Thank you.